All right, here's one more example of finding the area of a regular polygon. This time they're asking about a regular octagon with a side length of 4 centimeters. Okay, so octagon is 8, right? So I'm going to go ahead and quickly draw an 8-sided polygon here, regular polygon. Okay, that should do. Just drag this up just a little bit here. Okay, so remember, the side lengths are 4, right? So I'm just going to write maybe a 4 down right here, okay? And remember, all of these side lengths are the same. Right? So each of these have a side length of 4, okay? This time I'm only going to draw a couple little segments here that go from the center to two consecutive vertices here. All right, so I'm just going to draw that one that looks like this. So I'll even go like this and just make sure this is kind of somewhat close to the center. Okay, and that's kind of what we're looking at here. Now, that's all we really need to solve this problem. Okay, and so the first thing we want to know is what is the measure of the central angle. Okay, so I'll say find central angle measure. All right, so to find the central angle measure, we will just take 360 and we'll divide it by 8, and that will give us the central angle measure. So I'm going to go to my calculator and take 360, divide that by 8, and it gives us 45 degrees. Okay, so we get 45 degrees right here. Okay, now again, that means that this angle right here is 45 degrees. But remember, if I cut this in half, if I bisect this, okay, that means that each of these are now 22.5. So I'm going to go just kind of do an arrow right here, and I'm going to say this is now 22.5 degrees. Okay, and so now, remember, this is a right angle. Okay, this should form two congruent segments. So now this is going to be a side length of 2, and we want to figure out what our apothem is. So I'm going to call that A. All right, so I know my angle measure. Okay, the side that is opposite, I know that, and I want to know the adjacent side. So I'm going to use tangent. So I'll say that the tangent of 22.5 degrees is going to be equal to the opposite side, or the opposite leg, which is 2, over the adjacent leg, which is A. Okay, to find out A, I'm going to multiply both sides by A, which will give me A times the tangent of 22.5 degrees equals 2, and then I'll divide both sides by the tangent of 22.5 degrees. So I'll get 2 divided by the tangent of 22.5 degrees. And so this is where I go to my calculator. I'm going to write down my approximation. Okay, so 2 divided by the tangent of 22.5 is going to give us about 4.828427125. Okay. Now, I like to keep this number in my calculator right now, okay, because it's going to help me solve this problem exactly. Okay, I write it down just in case for whatever reason we lose it. All right, so now at this point, remember our formula for this is going to be the area is equal to 1/2 times the apothem times the perimeter. Okay, and so if I were to write out this formula, I'll say that the area again equals 1/2 times our apothem that we got, which is 4.828427125 multiplied by our perimeter. Okay, well, our perimeter here is, remember, we have a side length of 4 and we have 8 total sides, and that's going to be the distance around. Okay, so that should be 32. Okay, and so now my area is going to be equal to, I'm just going to, again, I keep that decimal number in my calculator. I know that half of 32 is 16, so I'm just going to multiply this number in my calculator by 16. And I end up getting that the area is 77 point, and it doesn't tell me to round, so I'm just going to round to the nearest hundredth. I'll say 77.25, and I'll call this square centimeters. And this would be my final answer. Okay. Again, I hope this extra example is helpful. You're going to want to take a look at the homework and get some practice with this, because it is a little bit tricky when we first start.